Not only have the Eagles made history making Saquon Barkley the highest paid running back in league history, but they also have set a new standard, a new trend for how running back contracts are going to work in the future. Running backs prior to last season, they were devalued. Not because they weren't talented and they weren't important parts to having a good football team, but due to their short shelf life and how easily replaceable they were. But then you have Saquon Barkley come around. He signs a great bargain deal for the Philadelphia Eagles with the fact that you only had him for $13 million and he gave you 2,000 yards on the ground. He was an MVP candidate. He was an instrumental part in you winning Super Bowl 59. It reinvigorated the importance of the running back position. When you have a player of Saquon Barkley's talent at running back, it takes so much pressure off your quarterback, and it just makes life easier knowing that you have somebody that you can go to, and in one play, he's a threat to take it to the house every single time he touches the football. You can't tie Saquon Barkley to the positional value that every other running back in the league has, because he's not a traditional running back. This guy's just a weapon. You can line him out wide. When you get him one-on-one against a linebacker in pass coverage, he's winning that matchup 9 times out of 10. Saquon Barkley is one of the most talented running backs that the NFL has ever had. And the reason why teams have been so scared to commit to running backs long-term and give them lucrative contracts is because it wasn't worth the risk. Largely due to what happened with Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott after they signed their massive contract extensions. When Todd Gurley got his big contract from the Rams, he was out of the league at the age of 26, 2 years after he signed that 4-year extension. The Cowboys gave Ezekiel Elliott a 6-year extension. In 2019, they cut him 3 years later at the age of 27. Running backs have a short prime, and they fall off incredibly fast. Like, as soon as you pay these guys, they could fall off as soon as next year. But what's different about Saquon Barkley's new extension and a new trend that the Eagles just set with his record-breaking deal is that they gave him a shorter length contract that has a higher guaranteed salary. And you now are going to start seeing more teams do this. It's smarter to give a running back a lot of money on a shorter term deal, because let's say that Saquon Barkley, worst case scenario, he does fall off or he does get injured and the Eagles got to move on from him. Okay, you don't have to take a huge cap hit to do so, like how the Rams and the Dallas Cowboys had to do when they moved on from their star running backs when they fell off, because you only signed them to a 2-year extension. So therefore, you're not committed to him for 3-4 years. And the thing with running backs is, with how fast they tend to fall off, you don't want to be tied to them long term. It's better off to keep signing them to short-term deals where you give them a lot of money. Yeah, you know, if a guy falls off and you're paying them $20 million a year, it's an L, but you rather take the L, paying a guy $20 million that year, to have to fork over $40 million over the next 3-4 years, and you just have a defective player. I don't think that's going to happen to Saquon Barkley, though, because he is a Hall of Fame level player. Hall of Fame level players tend to regress at a slower rate than the positional norm. But for other running backs that are seeking new contracts, like James Cook, eventually B. John Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, we could see those guys get maybe a 2-year, 3-year deal, and it benefits the team because you're pretty much telling these running backs, if you want to continue to make this high amount of money, you have to continue to produce year after year. If you have one off season, we get rid of you. You feel me? So it just helps the team kind of protect themselves a lot more financially than what the Rams and the Cowboys did when they gave those long-term contracts to Todd Gurley and Zeke. And, you know, this is probably the smartest way to go about this because, you know, all parties are happy. The team doesn't have to risk being tied up to a guy long term if he ends up falling apart. And the running back, you probably would want a longer term deal, but how are you going to turn down, $20 million if you're Saquon Barkley? How are you going to turn down, top 5 money at the running back position? If you're getting 13, 15 million a year, more than what most running backs have been making these last couple of years, it may be a shorter length contract, but you'd be foolish to turn down that kind of money, especially knowing how short of a career you have playing this position. Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles once again have outsmarted the NFL, and expect more teams to start copying this contract model for how they negotiate with running backs, because it just is such a win-win for both sides involved.